We need to just get out of our mind that this is going to be for best or most deserving. The criteria is going to change weekly based on how these games are played.
And I think at this point, one of the things we can tell, given that after the top 6, you have both Pac-12 teams,
right,
and then the Big 12 shows up, not even with their undefeated team, but with Oklahoma.
Who's that undefeated team in the Big 12?
And then Baylor at number 12. They're clearly saying, Big 12, you're last on the list of Power 5s right now, correct?
It's interesting to me that Oregon is behind Georgia.
Really? Why is that behind? What, you think they should be ahead of them?
Look, justifiably so. Well, no, not based on how it looks. Absolutely not. But if we were doing resume, it would be the same argument that LSU has for Ohio State. Oregon's loss is to Auburn. Georgia's loss is to South Carolina.
But Georgia's wins are better than anything that Oregon's got on their plate. And that's kind of the one thing that also jumped out is the committee clearly showed who you beat to them. And this point, a little more important than who you lost to. That's another point.
But see,
Oklahoma.
Just what you just said, MG Jr., it changes from 1 to 2.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Like that's my point. Like we group this like this. When it comes to these pod of teams, like you said, in this scenario, what's most important is resume. If you in this pod, most deserving.
Right.
If you in this pod, eye test. Right? It changes, man. Like, that's why I don't get, like, super crazy about the rankings. And a lot of people do. And it's good. It's good for us. It's good for people to talk about. But at the same time, there is no way you're having the same conversation based on the same guidelines with every team.
You know what, Marcus? Now that you say that and you look at the teams the way they're listed, you can almost see how it goes. Because when it's at the top, it's we know. And you know this, there are coaches and former ADs in that room that are looking and say, I know what good football looks like. And they're saying with those top 3 or 4 teams, I know what good football looks like. Then you go on down and you get into that 6, 7, 8 range, and you go, all right, well, who'd you lose to in this situation?
Right.
Who'd you lose to? What's your one blemish? And then after that, it's, well, who'd you beat?
Who'd you beat?
Yeah. Who'd you beat?
I'm
And you get on
you.
down there, and then you even get down back into the teens, and all of a sudden it's, all right, well, once you get to that Baylor range, that 12 and early teens, it's, what do we actually just think of you straight up? Because then you got some good wins and you got some good losses. It's what do we actually think of you? And the Baylor submission was not very much.
Basically,
right now.
we don't believe you.
Hey, Baylor doesn't have any good losses. They ain't lost, baby.
They ain't lost.
Oh, hear that
There we
garbage.
go.
They ain't lost.
Well, and I mentioned there are 7 teams that have 3 or more wins against Power 5 teams with winning records, and Baylor is one of those teams. Like, they have done that. They have the common opponent with Oklahoma, who beat Oklahoma, but they're still looking at them saying
here's what the playoff committee did. All right, here's what it did. Here's what the college football playoff did. The college football playoff told a lot of people, we don't view you as we view other people.
Prove it. Yeah, they're saying that to Minnesota and Baylor.
Exactly. A lot of people don't. That doesn't sit well with a lot of people. That's why we had this UCF conversation forever. Like UCF going undefeated, right? And claiming that they national champions.
Mm-hmm.
The committee was like, but you ain't Ohio State. And you ain't Alabama.
Cool for you.
Don't play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
You're
saying?
in a different group.
So we
you
have
sit
to,
at a different lunch table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got to be like, I'm not sure if we have to be okay with it, but people need to stop acting like that ain't what it is.
Right.
Like Alabama, one loss without playing in the conference championship, got in a lot to do because it's Alabama. And what we've watched 3 years ago, what we expect them to be. And obviously they proved the committee right by going and winning, but you just people have to stop with this fantasy like everything's equal and on the side. It's not.
It isn't. You're exactly right. Marcus Spears with us in studio, the owner of the greatest pipes in the history of broadcasting.
Hello.
As we talk about a lot of things. And one of the things that we've sort of been kicking around this morning is that you do have 2 teams that are unbeaten in Power 5 conferences in Minnesota, which is all the way down at 17, and Baylor at 12. And the idea that it's possible, is it likely? No, but it's possible that one of these teams may get through their teams, their conferences undefeated, play a conference championship game, and still be undefeated and maybe squeezed out of the picture. If either Baylor or Minnesota does that, do you think they're left out?
Baylor goes undefeated, they left out.
That's what I said
Why
earlier.
you got to hurt me like that, man?
Wow.
I just said you had the greatest pipes in the history of broadcasting.
Oklahoma calls the Big 12.
Yeah.
Like it's not
fair.
about Baylor.
Honestly, I think Texas cost the Big 12.
Well, yeah.
Texas bottoming out this year, I think dropped down everyone's perception.
But
of that conference.
you look at what going back to what we said. If Oklahoma goes undefeated, you can validate because Jalen Hurts is putting up crazy numbers. Lincoln Riley, what we've learned, right? And I've always been a big proponent until Oklahoma play defense. I'll leave them out every year, but I know a lot of people have a different feeling about that. But then you look at Clemson, like Clemson not going to have a great win. They're going to be undefeated. They're not going to have a great win.
So this is what I brought up earlier. Clemson undefeated. We know they're going to be in. If Minnesota, and I do not think they will, but if they beat Penn State ranked,
they gotta
Iowa
get in.
ranked, Wisconsin ranked, and then Ohio State in the Big Ten, they're in.
There's
in. No doubt.
No question.
That's what I brought up earlier. If Baylor beats Oklahoma, Oklahoma is sitting at number 9 right now. Then they beat them, and then they're going to drop into the teens, and then beat them in the Big 12 championship game when they're in the teens. The Oregon-Utah winner may get in before them with one loss over an undefeated Baylor.
Absolutely.
I could see that. I know, Mike, you don't agree.
I just think that the committee, being a human committee like we talked about, because this isn't the BCS computers that would look at that and say, well, you beat number 9, and then they drop down when you play them in the conference championship, so you beat number 14. It was, you had to beat the same team twice in a span of a few weeks. That is a difficult task, especially when it's one where, like you said, we look at Jalen Hurts in that offense like known commodities in college football. That is probably the top offense. That is probably the best of what we got by almost any statistical means. And just the eye test of that, like CeeDee Lamb and those dudes are ballers, straight up.
Yeah, so there's a lot to get here. Again, this is only the first thing. It's going to change massively over the next 3 weeks because the top 4 teams are all going to play each other. But there's only 2 cold, hard facts that we know, as I hold up one finger. There's only 2 cold, hard facts. Well, one over here, one over here. There's only 2 cold, hard facts that we know about the initial rankings. If you're ranked number 1, you're not winning the national championship. In the previous 5 years, that's never happened. And if you are the initial number 3 team, not only do you not win, Marcus, you don't even make the playoffs.
It's amazing.
You don't even make the playoffs. And
LSU
you know what?
where?
At Alabama.
2. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
They're in the right spot.
They're in the perfect spot right now.
What's up? Thank you so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. Don't forget to download the ESPN app, and if you want more premium content, which you do, make sure that you subscribe to ESPN+. See you soon.